You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? Welcome back, my friends, to The Perfect Prana Show, School's Out, Summer Edition, Season 3. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga enthusiast on the Chicago scene. And if you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. If you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have a lot in store for you all today between the yoga news, where I talk about what's going on in the world, how it relates to yoga, Yoga Hills, where I bring on a very special guest, usually a yoga instructor, and talk to them about their practice, and the weekly wellness challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga, and yes, we are recycling it. But before we get into all of that, let's take this moment to center ourselves. So no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, you're driving in the car, you're sitting in the park, you're walking in the park, you're laying in the bed, you're sitting on the couch, there is an array of options. Take this moment to lengthen out your spine. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown so breath can effortlessly move through you. And just begin to notice your breath and what it does naturally. And you can always come back to your natural breath. And then push out all the air so you can take a new breath with me in through your nose, right into your low back, past your rib cage, up to your collarbone, and hold at the top. And then exhale to sigh it out. Exhaling what you do not need, exhaling everything, and hold at the bottom. Inhale through your nose, filling all the way up, and hold. And then exhale, removing all of the breath, emptying out completely to start a new breath cycle. Inhale through your nose, filling up your belly like a balloon. Hold. And then exhale, sighing it out to deflate your belly, pushing out all the air. Inhale through your nose and let the breath travel to any place in your body that needs attention or nourishment. And then exhale to relieve whatever tension, toxicity, whatever you do not need. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news. This week's yoga news. San Diego wages war on beachside yoga. Teacher Nama Steve has been teaching free yoga classes on the beach for 17 years, and recently park ranger said you have to go. You cannot be on the beach teaching yoga classes without a permit. Basically, they don't want unauthorized businesses making money or potentially making money off of gatherings on public land. This is so crazy. So they said 4 or more people, you need a permit to gather to do yoga. And I'm like, so what if I have a group of 5 friends and we're 5 friends all together and we decide to just go do yoga on the beach? And like, you cannot be serious. There has to be more important things going on and issues to stop than people gathering on the beach to do yoga. Of course, I'm on the yogi side. They've been protesting by gathering in large groups and just doing the yoga anyways, and they've been being watched by the park rangers, and there have been issues. There was a meeting set up with the mayor, but per the city attorney's advice, the mayor canceled the meeting. So yeah, this seems like this is going to be a little bit of a battle. Hopefully they get to freely practice their yoga on the beach, because there's a lot worse things that people could be doing on the beach in large groups. I mean, people gather on the beach to do drugs, to drink, and whatever, and if there's 3 people on the beach doing drugs and drinking, then is that okay? But as long as they're not 5 people doing yoga on the beach, like, come on. You know, that's a stupid rule. And especially just considering that the classes are free, so they're not making money off of these classes, so whatever. I think it's stupid that you need a permit anyways to gather. That just feels like such a restriction that honestly it doesn't really make any sense. Like, why do I need the government's permission to gather 5 of my friends to do a wellness practice? You cannot be serious. Free all my yogis everywhere. Practice with as many friends as you want, anywhere that you want. And that's just it. I mean, freedom of assembly. Like, come on, this is America. Where's the freedom at? But hopefully the city lightens up on that and they're like, okay, let's just go focus on other issues going on in the city, because the world will be a better place if more people gathered together and did wellness activities on the beach. That is great for your health. You're grounding, you're barefoot, fresh air, nice view, getting some sunlight. What's the big deal? And I'm not in San Diego, but I do want to go to some lakeside yoga classes this summer, just a few times. And I had thoughts about starting it up myself, but I just didn't know what it takes. Honestly, I kind of want to fill out some people that already teach yoga on the lake, just to see, what are the secrets? What do you do? What don't you do? Because, I'm not trying to get a permit and be like, oh, can I please have permission to gather these people? I'd rather just post about it, be like, hey, come to the beach, pop out, and I'm teaching yoga. Anybody can come. Donation based. Like, I'm not even gonna charge people. Like, if you want to give me money, cool, but it's not a requirement. I just love yoga and I want to share it with everybody. So what's the big deal? So hopefully San Diego lightens up on their yogi citizens, and hopefully Chicago isn't strict about that kind of thing. Yoga heals. This week's yoga heals Erin Brammer. She is a yoga teacher at Yoga View, and she's been practicing going on 30 years. Whoa, that's intense. Erin strives to cultivate a warm and welcoming space where her students can connect deeply with themselves in the spirit of curiosity and compassion. She offers an injury-informed approach and guides students safely through their practice with awareness of common pitfalls. I had a great discussion with Erin, so let's just get right into it. Thank you so much, Erin, for coming onto my show, The Perfect Prana Show. I'm so blessed to have you with me today, on Zoom. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be doing this, and thank you for asking me.
The first question that I ask every guest that comes onto the show is, when did you start practicing yoga, and why do you still practice yoga today?
I mean, I started practicing some yoga when I was in high school, which was in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, I just always had this interest in like alternative health, and I was a vegetarian from young teenage years, and I don't know, I was just drawn to that. So I remember at that time I just like got this book, and I had asthma, and I still have asthma, but I was really trying to figure out some ways to help that didn't involve the inhalers and all of that. So at first I was just like doing some things from books. When this was in the late 80s, when there was no internet. So I just did the best I could with that. A little bit later on, enrolled in a massage therapy training program at this place called Heartwood Institute in Northern California. And as part of the training program, they had the students do like daily yoga practice. It's just like a nice complement to like the physical work of doing massage therapy. And then, they really wanted to help us foster kind of body awareness. And so that was in like 94, 95. And at that point, like when I was practicing, it was like such a magical experience, because I was like, I was in this school, but it was basically a commune/school. literally on a mountaintop. Living with this like great community, home cooked vegetarian meals, like daily yoga, like with this amazing teacher, and she has studied with BKS Iyengar. I mean, I was just like in love with it, it was early and I've never been like a very early morning person, but I mean, just getting up, 6 a.m., walking to the yoga space there and practicing with, this wonderful community. And I was there for like a year and a half. And so it was fantastic. At first, it started out with like Iyengar yoga. And then there was some Ashtanga as people started to get, a better grasp of the fundamentals through the Iyengar practice. And then, I kept practicing after that. And, my reasons for practicing have definitely changed. Like you asked why I still practice today. I mean, definitely my number one reason is for the mental health benefits. It just really is a great tool to have in my toolbox for, alleviating stress, anxiety, and depression. Like am like kind of genetically predisposed to these things. And so yoga is just something that, gets me out of my head, gets me out of like any, sort of like negativity spiral I might be doing in my mind, boosts my mood. It's fun. I don't know, it's just really become kind of a non-negotiable in my life. Like it wasn't all, definitely wasn't always that way. Like at a certain point, I just became like addicted has negative connotations, but like addicted to yoga. And so that's why I keep practicing. I mean, I also love the community aspect. And, I primarily practice at Yoga View and I've practiced there since they opened. And especially, in the past like 5, 6 years, I've really become more like part of the community there and have branched out. And like I used to be very shy and I would just like go to my class and kind of leave. But it's now the community aspect of it is crucial for me, and it's like the closest I've been able to get to that feeling of like living on the commune in California with that community. So that's a big part of it. I mean, I love the just the physical benefits from it. And as I'm getting older, like I'm really looking at it as a way to counteract aging. Elderly people in nursing homes, as you age, left to your own devices, if you're not doing some kind of wellness practice or physical fitness routine, I mean, you just start to kind of harden and curl up and hunch over and shrink. And, people who do yoga, that doesn't tend to happen. I mean, unless there's some other certain, I just want to age and like expand and grow more and, hopefully not shrink, like my mom like lost like almost 3 inches, over the years since I've seen her. So very aware of that. I just turned 51. So yeah, I feel like yoga keeps you young, and that's a really good reason to practice.
That could be on a shirt. Yoga keeps you young.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I mean, I agree. It's just like my wellness plan. It can be hit, it can be cardio, it can be restorative, it could just be so much mixed with philosophy as well. Just the mental aspects of it about like, okay, I don't need to go as deep or I don't need to be so egotistical about this. So I feel like yoga encompasses the perfect mix for me of like mental wellness plan and physical wellness plan. So that I agree with that. There's
Yeah.
something you brought up earlier about asthma and how much you were into holistic health. And it kind of made me think, how do you decide when to take the conventional medicine versus to holistically heal, since that's something like I'm sure you've studied a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely with asthma, there's definitely a place for the Western medicine. And I still have inhalers, but as I've noticed, gotten older and through the yoga practice, my asthma has improved like a lot to the point where I don't need like I used to be on like a daily inhaler that, I had to take twice a day. And then in addition to that, I have, like the rescue inhaler. And I've gotten to the point through yoga practice, through learning to breathe through my nose, which I think is super key, where, I don't need those things. And, I occasionally need my rescue inhaler. Like I've identified other triggers for my asthma, like cold air, certain foods. So yeah, just and I feel like yoga even like helps with that because you become more aware of your body and like, oh, when I eat, I mean, this is very unfortunate, but like when I eat ice cream, I'm gonna be suffering, like the cold, like, I'm gonna be like coughing and wheezing and just learned how to, I don't know, how to manage it a little better. Definitely have to, make some sacrifices. But like, I feel like yoga and breathing through the nose is such a huge help for asthma. I mean, and I don't know, in my classes, I really drill it home. I'm always like, breathe through your nose, breathe through the nose. I mean, it like filters all the air, it warms the air, it removes any particles, and you absorb there's some like crazy statistic. Like I think it's like you absorb 20% more oxygen when you breathe through your nose versus if you are breathing through your mouth. Or in the past, few years have been really learning about the benefits of nasal breathing, but since that's so much a part of yoga, I had already experienced that firsthand. And now it's kind of really coming more into the mainstream, like you can do mouth taping, which I do sometimes. I don't know if you've experimented with that, but like with my asthma, a lot of times, if I just go to sleep and breathe through my mouth, breathing in like raw, unfiltered air all night. And it was very common to wake up already like with labored breathing. And I tape my mouth and it's a whole different ball game. I know I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent. There's like a lot of things that have come to me through practicing yoga. And then later on, it's like, oh, there's like science behind like why this is working for me. So
Every once in a while, I try to breathe through my mouth just to like see, and I'm like, this feels wrong. Like, I can't
yeah,
believe that there was a point in my life where I didn't know. Like, I would breathe in reverse, and I'm like, wow. So I do this now. I'm like, this is not right. In yoga, it tells us to do all this stuff. And sometimes there isn't a scientific explanation for it, but, over time, the truth about why these practices have been recommended. Okay, so let's get into the next question. What I wanted to ask you more just about what's your mission as a yoga teacher?
I have like a lot of missions, but I would say my primary mission, my hope is that.
It has been a wonderful discussion. Before we get off this phone call, I'm going to ask you to lead us through a quick pranayama, your choice, just a few breaths.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean the pranayama technique that I tend to go to the most is the box breathing, or I think sometimes people call it square breathing, but it's just really good for calming your mind, relaxing the body, like helping you focus. Because, as I mentioned, I deal with the anxiety, as I think most people do. And it's like, I feel like it's a relatively accessible, you know, breathing technique for beginners. So basically, what you're going to do in box breathing is there are four distinct parts to the breath. There's the inhale, there's the retention of the inhale, so holding the breath in, then you exhale, and then there's the retaining the breath out, so holding the breath out. And you do those 4 parts of the breath, holding them for an equal amount of time. I tend to go with 4 seconds, but, depending on your needs or like how your breathing is feeling that day, you could do it, maybe 2, 3 seconds or, 6 or 8 seconds. But I'll do 4 seconds for this. So, and we're going to breathe through the nose. Surprise, surprise, as we do this. So wherever you are, just find a comfortable seated position. You don't need to be sitting on the floor in lotus or anything like that. You can be sitting just in a chair or a cushion. Just make sure you're comfortable and are able to kind of sense, some lift through the spine, some lift through the crown of the head, relax the shoulders, and just start by taking maybe 2 just smooth, um, long breaths in and out through the nose, just regularly, not box breathing just yet. The breath in, slow breath out, smooth breath in. And then we'll all take this last exhale to kick off the box breathing. And now inhale through the nose for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 2, 3, 4. Keep the breath out. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Smooth exhale for 2, 3, and 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. One more round. Inhaling for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Smooth exhale for 2, 3, 4. And just hold the breath out for 2, 3, 4. And now go ahead and just take a natural breath in and take a couple more just natural breaths, fluttering the eyes open and hopefully feeling a little more relaxed and centered.
You definitely just made me yawn. That always happens during a yoga class, but my choir teacher said if you yawn, that means you're breathing correctly. So, no, thank you so much, Erin, for coming on to the Perfect Prana show. I hope to take your class again soon. It's a lovely class. And I'll also think more about strengthening my hamstrings now. It's not something that I think about too often. So thank you so much, Erin. With that being said, namaste.
Namaste. Thanks so
Thank
much, Kyah.
you. You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, Saturdays at 10 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. To keep up with me, follow me on Instagram at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. If you're in Chicago, then come practice with me at LA Fitness on King Drive, Wednesdays at 9:45 a.m., Saturdays at 11. Weekly Wellness Challenge. So in the last season, I said I want to recycle the 8 limbs of yoga now with a fresh perspective, because this really is a path that is endless, honestly, to the end of life. I'll always be on the 8 limbs, or I'll always be on this path, and I'll have to keep recycling and keep going back. And that's just life. We go through times where our morality will be tested, and our discipline and our focus and all of that stuff. So yeah, anyways, of course, we're going back to the yamas. Okay, so since we are recycling, of course, we're starting with the yamas and we're going through it all again with ahimsa, non-violence. And it's interesting that this is the first aspect in the 8 limbs of yoga, is to not harm or try not to harm anyone. And it's an important one. Sometimes we can unintentionally harm others or ourselves and just not really be aware about it. You know, the last time I turned it more back on to ourselves, like, okay, let's do something that's the opposite of harming ourselves. Let's do something to heal ourselves this weekend or whatever. But on this summer edition of the Perfect Prana Show, I would like to turn that back onto others. So this week's challenge is, let's find a way to help somebody this week, somebody in our lives. Maybe you don't know them that well. Maybe you know them very well. Find out a way where you can help someone other than yourself. Now, I feel like help is kind of an opposite of harm. Kind of, I don't know. That is the weekly wellness challenge. And after you're done helping whoever, journal about it. And it could be the smallest task. Maybe you just decide to hold the door open for somebody, and that is helping them out. You see that they drop something, pick it up for them. Maybe somebody in your life with kids needs a babysitter. You're like, you know what? I have a little bit of free time. I'll babysit. If my parents were here, that's how I would help them. But, you know, I'll have to think about that. How can I help somebody this week? And then, of course, I'm going to journal about it because I've been inspired by my friend. If you listen to the last episode of season 2, journal about your interactions more. So, to help somebody, I don't know, go to a homeless shelter and give out food or something noble. I'm going through changes. There are things that I want to work on this summer because I want to keep the Perfect Prana Show alive. I'm not gonna have access to this lovely studio forever, so there's a lot of work to be done. Either that or I'm just gonna have to enroll in another class. No, I just wouldn't do that. But yeah, it's been a great first episode of season 3. I'm excited for the rest of the summer. So yeah, that's it. School's out, summer's here, adulting is here, life is getting real. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. This week's quote, and I actually am taking this from a friend, and she has said this, and it wasn't, I don't think she got this from anywhere. She just said this. I was like, whoa, that was actually kind of deep. She's like, wait, I know, right? Backstory as to why I'm saying this is because, of course, I just graduated college. Summer is here. We're on this 3rd season. I'm without class. I'm without schoolwork and all that great stuff. Now I really do feel like I'm entering a new era, as I'm sure a lot of people do when you go through this transition. So you're like, okay, now I'm going to find new ways to fill my time, and I'm going to shift into a new person and kind of get a new identity besides a student. So this week's quote from really my friend's friend, but I'll say she's my friend. I like her. She's a nice little vibe. She's a music artist, and her name is Rainbows on Apple Music. I'll put her in the show notes, of course, but this is what she said when we were all sitting down and we were painting for my friend's birthday celebration, and she picked up the canvas and she goes, man, a blank canvas is a spiritual moment. And I felt that because that's how I feel about this new era that I'm entering in life. This is a blank canvas and it is a spiritual moment. So Anyways, it's been real. It's been lovely, as always. Thank you for tuning into the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Again, keep up with me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. With that being said, the divinity in me bows to the divinity in you. Namaste.